You should make that clear. All
And
right.
it's a Rowney TV special. We've got teed up, we've got John Tinsley, and we're going to be talking about how to deal with golf during lockdown. We are very privileged to play, but there's got to be a benefit of getting out, John, hasn't there? There's got to be a way to kind of jazz it up, make it meaningful. What's your take?
Oh God, yeah. You get. I see the try to get on tomorrow. By the way, I think it was only 8 places left for the whole day. Isn't it fantastic that people are going out and a lot of single balls going out, and maybe a bit of online competition and scores and all the rest. But you know what? It is an opportunity. And what I do with a lot of the guys I work with is I set out a different scorecard for people. It's not easy on your own, is it? You hit a ball and away you go and you play
It's
okay.
boring.
It's not the same
It is
as
boring. After a
Yeah,
while, you
you know.
just think, what am I doing here?
Yeah. It is easy to lose a bit of interest. But sometimes you play quite well, don't you? Because there's no pressure on, and get the card in your hand, things change. So what we do is we look at a way of recording a different type of score. That's the first thing that we would do, and it also it helps with not just now, but very much in the long term aspects of the game. So the first thing that we would do is create a scorecard that relates to your own playing abilities. Now, of course, for a lot of golfers that can hit the ball reasonably well, then the scorecard is relevant. Now, the scorecard is based on length per hole, and it assumes on length how many shots you're going to take to get to the green, and then allows you 2 putts for a par. So on the first hole at Rowney, it's whatever distance. It assumes that you're going to knock one onto, down the middle, down somewhere, and then get the ball onto the green and turn 2 putt. On the second hole, it's 1 onto the green and 2 putts, and so it goes on. But for a lot of people, that's not actually how it is. So, for example, if you were to take the third hole at Rowney, for a lot of players, not all, but for a lot of players, getting up in 2 is not a realistic option, and it's a 3-shot hole. So for a lot of players, it's a par 5. So the first thing we do is we identify on the holes on the golf course. We put a par on that suits the playing ability. So it's shots to the hole realistically in your comfort zone, and the average number of shots you take to the hole plus 2 putts is your par. Now, I would say this as well, that we all played hole. Jeff, Jed, you played a lot of golf, and we can all think of holes, having played a lot of golf, where if the wind's blowing in a certain direction, we can stand on the tee and say, look, on a normal day, this is a long par 4, but today with the wind, it's a par 5. If I come off this with a bogey, it's actually relative to the conditions, it's a par. And that's all we're saying. That's all we're saying with this group of players that are going round and looking at the scorecard and saying this should be a par 4 for me, when in fact it's a par 5. So first thing you do is look at your greens in regulation and set your scorecard out for the greens in regulation, relative to the greens in regulation that you set. And what you do is you record your shots to the green. Record your shots to the green, then you record the number of putts, and then you put your score down. So if you take that exercise around every hole, and I've done this with many people, and you say, look, realistically, how many shots to the green? They might be offered a handicap of 28 or 36 or whatever. When we do that exercise, and usually without them knowing, and we had 2 putts on every hole, we're generally about 8 or 9, even 10 shots below what their current handicap is. So they know they can get to a hole in X number of shots, but the reality is they don't, and they don't pay any attention to the fact that they don't get greens in regulation. And greens in regulation is a very, very, very important factor in the scores you're going to take. And there is a formula which says, now you have to forgive me on this. If you take your greens in regulation. Take your greens in regulation, double it, and take it off 95. That's the score you should hit, something of that sort. And if you look at the pros, that's exactly what they end up with, about 68, 67. It does work pretty much, but the higher the handicap, I would say that you take it off not 95 but off 100. So there's a formula that gives you a rough idea of what you should score. So people, if they put an attention on the greens in regulation and make a note of it and mark it down and record that, then you know what? And that makes a big difference to how you perform, how you improve your performance. So you have greens in regulation plus putts equals score. But then the next thing you do on this scorecard that you make up, and I think you've made one up that we spoke about this morning on that scorecard. But what you do with the scorecard?
I've got it on the screen, John. I've got it on the screen, nicely mapped out.
Have you? Where is it then? I can't see it.
Well, I can see it on. It's been broadcasted out to the hundreds of viewers, and if there is anyone viewing and you want to add, you want to comment, want to ask John a question, please put your comments in the box.
All right. So then, what you then look at, and I think this is I mean, obviously it'll show you how many putts you're taking, and you know what? If you look at a 20 plus handicapper, the average sort of putts is 36, 37. You look at a scratch golfer, it's only 31 and a half. So there's not a huge difference in the amount of putts. The big difference in terms of your performance and your scores is on what we call scrambles. So you've marked down how many shots to the green, you've marked down the number of putts, you've given a total. Then the next question you ask is, did I have a shot from about 30 yards and in to the hole? 30 yards and into the hole. It could be 35, could be 25, dependent. 25 if you're off about 40 handicap. But let's put 30 yards in there. So if I'm within the hole, 30 yards within the hole, what I'm going to do is make a note as, did I play a shot from that distance to the hole? Yes or no? The next question is, did I get up and down from that position? And it's scrambling that is the key to keeping your score going. Scrambling makes the biggest difference in handicap adjustments. If you and again in rough figures, if you take a scratch golfer, he will get up and down in a scramble around about 55-60% of the time. And if you look at a 20 handicapper, they get up and down about 22% of the time. And it also makes a huge difference, doesn't it, on your putting stats? Because if you get, you look at the tour pros and they miss the greens maybe 5 or 6 times around, but they get up and down when they miss it. So they've only got one putt, a foot tapping because they made a great chip. So it makes the putting look great. And that's another thing about putting. People don't get it that the pros on tour miss about 50% of 6-foot putts.
So John,
on tour,
if I could just sort of
Sorry.
I'm
rambling on.
Kind of probe what we're going to do here, because we've got a lot of members at Rowney, and unless you're living with a golfer, you've got to play on your own. And I think you've got to make the most out of this lockdown golf, and it could be that we're tied up to this for 5-6 weeks. So what we don't want is our members getting a little bit fed up and just getting out of the habit of playing golf. But you've compiled this matrix. We've got it on screen. So it's for 9 holes, say, but it could be extended, right through the course that's open. And as the time goes by, it's drying out beautifully. So I think we'll have 18 holes very soon. So for instance, okay, so I'm looking at the matrix. So hole 1, shots to hole. So is that the total score?
No, shots to hole. No, well, I would put it shots to green. So it's how many shots you take to get on the green. Now, on the first hole, maybe a lot of people will take, we expect to get on the green in 2 shots. Now, obviously, there's some beefy hitters that will get up there in 1 shot, but they wouldn't probably take it on if the rough was grown as it should be. But But if you were to take 2 shots to the green for the Mr. Average, then 2 putts, so it's shots to the green. But there are many players that will hit a drive, then knock it up to the right, and then chip it on. It's 3 shots to the green, and play it as a par 5. Play it as a par 5.
Yeah.
Remember, just in bog standard terms, if you only drop 1 shot per hole to par, you're playing off a handicap of 18. So, just adding that extra shot to the green, as long as you 2 putt,
So if we just follow the matrix, so we need to record the putts on the green. Well, that speaks for itself. And then the next level is the total. So I'd imagine that's the shots to the hole and the total. That makes sense. So then we've got greens in regulation. Now that's going to differ, isn't it, depending what handicap you're on?
Well, it will differ on. No, actually, it will differ on your own playing ability. Differs on playing ability and length and accuracy of shot. You see, some people might be super good at pitching and rescue the first and second shot by being able to chip and putt, being able to pitch and chip fantastically well. So greens in regulation are very specific to your own playing ability. So if you have never got up on the third hole at Rowney in 2 shots as a par 4, then and you quite regularly get up in 3, then 3 is your target. Get up in 3. If it's the 5th hole and you can't get up in three shots, and many can't, then it's greens. Your regulation to get up on the 5th is 4 shots.
Got you. I've got you. Okay. So we'll be putting a figure in the column there, and then, like you said, there's a scramble. Did you get a scramble in from 30 yards? And also a scramble. Did you have an up and down, which is really a yes or no, isn't it?
Yeah, and the first on the first one on scramble is really only asking you the question: were you playing a shot from that distance? Were you playing a shot from 30 yards or 20 yards or 10 yards or whenever, any distance from the hole up to 30 yards? Were you playing on that hole a shot from there, yes or no? It's only a yes or no there. Yes, I was. Did you get up and down? No, I didn't. And what you're looking to do is bring the percentage of up and downs down dramatically. The more you can chip and putt, because you will miss greens, the better your handicap and the better your score will be.
Okay, so over this period, I think your average Rowney member, if they're able to get out, they could be playing 4, 5, 6 rounds a week, who knows. So we're saying, let's bring a little notebook out and use this matrix. It's on the Facebook page. You can easily crib it and record your data. So after looking at this data, is it going to be that it's the short game, it's the getting up and down that may be the weakness? What can we do to improve on that?
Well, all the practice facilities are closed up, obviously, at the moment. But just going back to that matrix, remember that if you put that matrix into Rowney, what is slightly out of kilter with Rowney is that it's not like, if you like, Ramsey or Castletown. I mean, I picked Ramsey because you can be slightly off the fairway and you won't see your ball because the semi-rough is that lush. Obviously, in Castletown, when it grows a bit, you're off the fairway and you can't find your ball at all. In fact, you've got to be careful you don't take your bag in, otherwise you'll lose that. But you've got you've got very little disadvantage by being slightly off the fairway at Rowney. So, because one of the other measures I would put in under normal circumstances would be fairways hit. So the more fairways you hit, the more greens you will hit because you're playing off the fairway. It doesn't make that much difference at Rowney, so we've left that one out. But if you look at what you've put down for your greens in regulation, and you're not getting anywhere near, then you've either got to change your greens in regulation, or you've got to look and put more attention on the fact that you're not hitting the greens. What is it you're going to do about it? Are you setting too unrealistic a target? Are you being too precise? Are you not taking the right club? It gets to identify the areas of the game where you think you're okay, but you're actually not delivering what you think you're doing. And when you're focusing on those areas, it gets your attention, and you'll find you will get improvement just by putting more attention on it. I'm not saying that you don't need to put a technical aspect into it or whatever, but you will get more. You will pay more attention to it, and you will improve your game.
Okay. So I'm really thinking now that it's when you're playing these single rounds of golf that you must go out there with a purpose. And
absolutely,
one of the aspects is to take a little notebook and record just what you're doing, and then after a few weeks the evidence could be there. There could be something that leaps out at you, quite obvious.
There will be.
Yeah,
there will be, Jed. There will be masses that leap out, and it will be a surprise in a lot of instances. But you see, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it, can you? Now, I'm not going to get stuck upon data and over analysis. That's not the idea here. But in this period, first is it will identify where your strengths and where your challenges are, and secondly, it will give you a purpose to improve. I recognise now I can improve my chipping. Now we can talk about how to improve the chipping by picking the spot and rolling out, taking a flatter face club, not trying to lift the ball so high. We can talk about all sorts of things that will not necessarily give you birdies, but will take away the disasters. The key issue here is really getting rid of the double bogeys. That's the key issue, and treble bogeys. That's what turning one bad shot into two bad shots. That's what we're talking about, getting more focus. And you mentioned about purpose, and I've got to tell you that every single swing and shot that you ever make should have a purpose. Everyone.
I've been following that mantra, John, as much as possible, and I think that's why we're having this conversation. Well, we're just coming up to 20 minutes now, and I've got a tea time not long after 3 o'clock. But there's something which I would like to just bounce off you, and I'm going to put some graphics on the screen, because there's been quite a bit of talk about Rowney and the way it's set out, which is very tidy, and we're very grateful to everyone involved. But it's just between the first tee and this expanse of grass through to the 16th green, and it just seems to be a little bit wide open, and we've got the practice range in there. I know you've got some thoughts about it. I have too. Would you like to share them with us?
Should I? Yeah,
it's fine. It's free speech.
Yeah. Look, I'm with you. I think the job that's done at the course is tremendous. But I think golf is a game of targets, and it's not a game that's played on an open field. I think that the issue surrounding the 17th, 18th, and 19th. What I would suggest, I think, I've considered this really long and hard. I don't think it's right that you hit balls off the mats onto the golf course. I don't think that's safe, logical, or reasonable. I know that there's been a white line been put in front out of bounds, but that still doesn't stop you hitting onto the golf course. In fact, I was given a lesson on there the other day, and we picked somebody's ball up. I said, all my balls have got marks on, but we're just looking for the golf. I think I'll put a sign up actually by the 150 marker on the practice ground, says, if you're looking for your ball in here, you're 60 yards off target. Lessons are available.
And that's not unusual, is it? That's a regular occurrence.
It doesn't make. No, I got hit on the. It's dangerous. It's just illogical. They were first designed weren't set up to be just an open field, and there is something about the attraction of being drawn to a fairway, which is very where you've got definition. I think it really helps you to play the game. You stand on the 17th tee and you can just boom it anywhere, right? It just doesn't make sense. There's no precision in that. If there was some deterrent, if it was out of bounds, right, which I think it should be, in terms of health safety grounds. If you take the safety issue, then a lot of holes. If the fifth is the safety issue, certainly the 17th and 18th should be. But what I would say is that if you were to grow some stuff short of the 17th green between the top of the hill and the ladies' tee, for example, it would protect the hole. You could take the bunker out if it's out of bounds. If you put a division and some mounds and stuff down 18 and made it more out to the left. Now people say, well, what about the people coming up from the first? Well, the people coming up the first should be down towards the 18th tee. Protect the hole, make people play up the right, and get some definition in there. I saw Simon cutting it the other day. He said he cut, and he was, don't know if you were up there, Jed, but he cut the first fairway. It was in a diamond. It looked fantastic. I actually stopped and said, look, the definition on here. And if you go to Ramsey, you look at when you stand on that first tee and they've cut it, that fairway is just stunning. It draws you to it. And I think we've got to have more targets, and we've got to have safety in mind. I don't think people should be able to just thrash it anywhere you like. You can stand on the first tee and bomb it left anywhere you want. That's not what golf's about. You stand on the 18th, you can bomb it right anywhere you want. That's not what it's about. And 17th is the same. I don't think the course was designed for that. Well, that's just my personal view. I get it that most people go right to left, and over the years there might have been people who were influenced that said, I'm struggling here. Let's cut it back so I can play my shot. That's not what this game's about. Let's protect the course a bit and get some safety, and that's my view.
Well, I really appreciate that, and everyone is entitled to the views at the club. And please, if you've got any feelings about this, any ideas, any suggestions, please put them in the comments box. If you're not comfortable with that approach, any of your committee members, this is what we have to do. We have to take on all the opinions of all the members and anyone else that loves Rowney, plays Rowney. But I have actually put the graphic on screen, and it's one that I sent you this morning. It's the one with the outer bounds, which are around the practice range. It's the red dots. So I think, I think for anyone that's...
Jed, can I just say, look, there's no criticism of anybody on my part, but the practice ground's a valuable asset to the club. People use it a lot. And I don't know anywhere where you have a practice ground where hitting onto or hitting from where it is part of the golf course. I've never seen it before. And just by its very nature, it's a conflict and it's a danger, isn't it? And in competition play, if they've got people on there and they're hitting golf balls and they're picking up golf balls innocently, they can pick up your ball and walk away, and you're ruining somebody's card. It just doesn't make sense. The hole on 18 is meant to be played left over the mark. It's not to be made 60 yards right of it onto the practice ground. So again, I just want to stress it's only your personal
absolutely.
view.
And it's a healthy discussion, and anyone should think we're entitled to that. It's not the bleeding Politburo at the club, so that's a good thing. So I look at it and I agree with what you say about the 17th. It would be interesting to have some vegetation going from the back or the top of the practice range up to the ladies' tee. I think that would be really helpful, just to keep the ball travelling up the left side of the fairway. I think that would be a big asset. But you mentioned before about the practice range being very special, very important, and I'd say our practice facilities are some of the best on the Isle of Man. There's no question about that. They're in proximity of the clubhouse, and there's so much goodness that comes out of practice. People love practicing, and so that practice range is absolutely sacred. And I'm sure just with a bit of creativity, a bit of cleverness, a bit of boldness, we could actually redesign the course a little bit so it's going to please everyone. And like you said, if you are 75 yards away from the middle of the fairway and you're on the practice range, absolutely they should be booking some time in your swing room.
Look, and what I find quite fascinating about all this is that when we go away and we play a golf course, we haven't played it before, or maybe a name that we know, quite often we want to play it off the bloody toughest tees and all the rest of it, and we want to play it in this and we come off it and say, scored like a bloody complete beginner. I've found the challenge almost overwhelming, but come off and said, that's absolutely fantastic. I loved it. God, that's a tough. And we almost get a thrill from playing the tough golf course. And yet we look at the first 17th and 18th, and there's this thing about let's make it as easy as possible.
I think if I could just jump in there now, I've put another screenshot on the screen there, and it's one of the 18th, and it's like you said, I think just with a bit of imagination we could plant some gorse, have some vegetation that's actually natural to the environment. We don't want it looking like a garden centre. And then maybe a bit of landscaping. We could lose the bunkers that aren't in use, towards hummocks. I call them.
You don't need that. You don't need to maintain bunkers if you've got different types of hazard, do you?
Exactly. And I've just thrown up another image which shows the demarcation of the practice range. That it could be made quite sexy again with some vegetation just up either side, and it'd be great to see some gorse there. That would make things a little bit clearer. So I think we've got a lot of scope, a lot of scope.
Yeah, and it's you don't have to spend a lot of money to. You can just let nature take. Use what nature provides is what I would say, but create this vision of it or this target, or let the hole draw you to it. Not just stand there with this vast amount of expanse and say, well, it doesn't matter if I hit this 100 yards off the bloody target. I've still got a shot in. I mean, if every hole, it's a bit. It doesn't make sense to me. You've got to have a challenge. That's my view.
Well, I
think it's worth trialing.
I've just put one final slide up that might blow a few people's minds, and this is the concept of an elevated tee on the 18th. So if anyone's watching, if they see the lower section on this image where it shows the limited view that you have from the 18th tee box, and then I had a bit of fun the other day. I just elevated a camera, and it certainly enhanced the sea view, and it meant that you were able to see that people are actually playing the 18th, and you're not just whacking it down there blindly over the crest of the hill. So I think it would enhance not just the safety aspect, but also visually, that you could take in that glorious sea view, the most beautiful bay in the British Isles and all that, and plot a bit of vegetation left and right and make it a challenge. Like you said, it's like when you come off a course that has really tested you've got that bit of adrenaline, haven't you? Rather than knocking it round, say, a football field. That's...
that's absolutely correct.
All about.
Yeah, absolutely correct.
So when you look,
just going on to that area, if I may, just if people talk to me about the risk of knocking off 18 onto the first. If you let it grow up on the left hand side of one up to the hill in between those trees and things, and stop people, give a penalty, make sure that you catch people out if they pull it left. You've got to keep it on track. That's the key issue, isn't it? I mean, so I talked to Sam the other day, and he was saying it doesn't grow there. Well, plant something else, but just make more risk and reward. Protect the holes a little bit. Don't have people bombing 3 woods onto the first without risking a major problem, because there's on the top of that hill there's 18 inches of bloody rough. And if you don't, that you standing on the first hole, and you don't, you think, well, I'll just lash this anywhere I want. You look at I don't think that's how golf should be.
You look at any course, and you look at Rowney, and you could look at the holes such as the 12th and the 14th and the 11th.
Yeah.
They're great holes, and these are ones which we treasure, and we treasure them because they're a challenge, and because they're pleasing to the eye. They've got the appropriate vegetation left and right of the fairway.
Yeah.
And what have you, and I think to justify the excellence of the course, we could quite easily just tweak it a little and make it more wonderful.
I agree. There's some really eye-catching holes. I mean, they talk about the 10th. I think the 10th's an eye-catching hole as well. And if we do have to move the tees into the field. I think tees above rough there. Don't cut it back. Don't have to really keep manicuring that area. Put the tee slightly higher and have a dog leg left to right, and just draw you in. It's fantastic. Look at it from a visual point of view as well as a playing point of view, is what I'm saying. Have it in your mind's eye so you stand on the tee and you see how the hole is meant to be played, not just hit it. The visual feedback you get from golf courses that help you swing, help you see your swing, help you see the ball flight, instead of just being able to hit anywhere. It's a massive benefit to your game.
Indeed. So we've had quite a bit to ponder over there. Thank you, John. Teed Up Golf. Tuition available online. I think we should do something with these Zoom sessions sometime where we can get other people involved as well. So perhaps we can look at that in the future.
Yeah. Zoom's great. Yeah, I do. Yeah. I don't mind doing a Zoom thing with the club if you want. As you know, we do one on Monday night for a group, which has been spectacularly good. I think.
Incredible.
We've had some great people on that.
Incredible.
Absolutely incredible, isn't it?
For those of you that don't know, John has arranged for some of the world's top golf coaches to come and speak to us on a Monday night and give us an absolute treat. And it really has been something to behold. And I've got to thank you, John. I keep saying, you've made a wonder to my game and many in the Rowney family and beyond around the Isle of Man. So let's keep it going. So
great.
Should we have a chat again sometime when I've got my
Love
scores
to,
done?
Sorry if I rabbited on, but there you go. That's what else do you do on 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon in lockdown?
Just prepare for Liverpool's next loss.
Oh no. No, just forget that. So as we finished, let me just reiterate. Just go on and use the 3 or 4 weeks we've got when you go out on your own to mark the card in a different way. It will give you massive feedback. You will improve, and you will be able to plot your progress and your percentages. Am I improving my percentage on getting up and down? It'll make a massive difference to your scores, massive. And identify all the areas that you need to work on. What are good, what are bad, and it's the way to do it. Never mind the actual score. Look at what's causing you the problem. Get rid of the double bogeys. Let's cut the disasters out. And this is what this matrix will help you do.
And if you are completing a matrix and you want to share your data with us, feel free, and we can chat about it in time to come. But thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, and have a lovely weekend. Stay safe, and we'll catch up again, John.